And welcome to Ask Your Academic. Today's session will cover the MSc, Cancer Research and Precision Oncology, as well as the Digital Cancer Technologies MSc. And we're joined by our academics who are hopefully going to be able to answer all the questions you have about the programme. So we're joined by Professor Joanne Edwards and Dr. Laura Richmond. We've got a few questions that have been submitted beforehand, so we'll do our best to cover off all of those. And if you do have any additional questions, please do pop them into the chat box and we'll do our best to answer all of them. We are recording the session today, so if there's anything you miss, don't worry, because we will send it out in the next few days and you can rewatch it. We'll also have it on YouTube and on our website. If you've got any specific questions around scholarships, funding, accommodation, all those things non-programme related, I'll pop some helpful links into the chat box for you. And there's also an online postgraduate event coming up on the 7th of May. So that's a really good place to go for any of those other type of questions. So yeah, we're short on time today, so I think we just get into it. So Joanne and Laura, if you could introduce yourselves, tell us a bit about yourself, what you do, what sort of programme you're involved in, and yeah, that'd be a good place to start. Joanne, you want to go first?
Hi, I'm Joanne Edwards. I'm the Professor of Translational Cancer Pathology in the School of Cancer Sciences, and I'm also Director of Education for the School of Cancer Sciences. So I oversee all the master's programmes. However, each master's programme has its own lead. So I lead on the Digital Cancer Technologies programme.
I'm Dr. Laura Richmond. I am the lead of the Cancer Research and Precision Oncology programme, or one of the leads, and I'm also the postgraduate teaching lead for the School of Cancer Sciences. So I help with overseeing and coordinating all of the postgraduate teaching side of things with Joanne. And I think that's the most important bits you need.
Perfect, thank you. So we've got two programmes that we're talking about today. Is it worth sort of just mentioning how they sort of differ, how different aspects that they cover?
Okay, so the Cancer Research Precision Oncology programme is a programme that tries and covers all aspects of cancer research. So it starts with an in-depth knowledge building course called Hallmarks of Cancer, so that everyone understands the molecular mechanisms underlying the development of cancer and the progression of cancer. But then it goes out and it covers things like radiation oncology, precision oncology, development of metastases, how cancer progresses. So it goes into drug discovery, clinical trials. So it is aimed for people that don't have a clear focus in the area that they're very interested in cancer research, to give them that broad basis to further develop their career. Once they've done the masters, they should then understand where their true passion lies. MSc for Digital Cancer Technologies, this is a much more focused course. So it also shares the Hallmarks of Cancer course to give you that good in-depth background knowledge that you require. But then it goes more into the pathology of cancer, how cancer is initiated, how at the clinical level we look at the histology of cancer, and then it goes into more emergent technologies. It looks at how we can use patient tissue to develop novel models such as patient-derived organoids and patient explants. It also looks at how we can understand much more about the underlying mechanisms of cancer by looking at new emerging technologies such as the spatial transcriptomic technologies, the multiplex IHC technologies, And also we do a lot in how we can use AI to understand the phenotype of the underlying cancer tissue. And we have a course in bioinformatics as well. Laura, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you covered that beautifully.
Yeah, no, I didn't understand any of it, but it sounded really good. Something we're always asked is how can you prepare for starting your MSc? So is there any sort of recommended reading or any skills that you would recommend that a student brushes up on before they start in September?
I can take this one. So in terms of recommended reading, because this is we work under a model of what we call research-led teaching. So what you're being taught is always going to be led by the most cutting-edge research in the field. We typically don't have a standard textbook or a set of standard textbooks because what you're learning is going to be constantly updating. And so the best way that you can sort of prepare in terms of your reading is to be looking at some of the lecture topics that you might be having, and then look at some of the most up-to-date papers in that area, be that primary research. You can look at some review articles, but that's going to be your best way to sort of get your background knowledge up to speed. There's also some very helpful courses on platforms like FutureLearn that you can look at for free if you want to do a little bit of extra background learning before you get started. But certainly looking at the most up-to-date primary literature in the field is a really good way to get yourself started. Joanne, anything else?
There's also some MOOC courses available, so you can do a bit of watch some online lectures prior to starting the course.
Perfect, thank you. Hopefully that keeps everybody busy over the summer. We've actually got a few questions in our chat box. I'll maybe touch on those before we sort of jump back to the other ones that we've had. So someone's asked if there's any chance to get an internship while they're studying their master's programme. Is that something that you'd advise that is possible?
So we wouldn't advise you to take on an internship as such, because semester 1 and 2 you should be truly focused on your studies. But what we do is in semester 3, everyone has their own research project that they undertake. So we feel that provides them that same opportunities what an internship would. Would you agree with that, Laura?
Yeah, so the research project is 14 weeks. So that's your sort of final big chunk of your master's is this 14-week research project. And within that 14 weeks, the research is your sole focus. So you won't be having any taught classes during that time, but you'll be expected to be in the lab on a sort of, if you like, a normal working week, so a standard 9 to 5, Monday to Friday kind of pattern. Which means that you get to fully dedicate yourself to doing that research work over that 14 weeks. Whereas, as Joanne said, semesters 1 and 2, you really should be focusing your attention and your effort into your taught courses, because you are going to learn quite a lot. And taking time away from that to sort of try and be putting yourself in the lab is potentially detrimental to your performance in the taught courses, which we obviously don't want to happen.
And these research projects are all placed within the School of Cancer Sciences or the CRUK Scotland Institute. So they're all within internationally leading cancer research institutes. So it's an enormous benefit from the students doing these masters. And that in turn leads on to making students with these masters find ongoing positions much easier, so that it makes the job prospects really good in completion of your master's, because you performed a master's and a research project within these globally recognised cancer research centres.
That actually leads in nicely to one of the questions that we had submitted, and it was just more about the research project. So people were asking how they kind of choose their topic. Is that up to them? Is there a bank of questions? I don't know if that works the same for both programmes. Yeah, maybe you can touch on that.
Yeah, I can talk through that. So all of the supervisors who are potentially going to supervise students will be asked early in the academic year to submit projects to a pool of projects. which is then typically opened up to the students round about February. It changes a little bit every year. End of February, beginning of March. You will then have the option to select your top 5 preferred projects from that pool of supervisors. And once that's been done, that will come back to usually to me to allocate the projects to individual students. And what we do when we're doing that is try very hard to make sure that everybody gets one of their top 5 projects, so that everybody's on a project that they really want to do. Obviously, every year we have certain projects that are very, very popular, and we can't put every single student in the class onto that project. So we'll allocate. At that point, we'll start looking at things like performance in the top courses, and assign projects based on that.
And if a student is particularly interested in one area, they can reach out to the supervisor prior to the project's been released and go and talk to supervisors and find out more about their area and if they will be offering a project for the research projects.
Perfect. That ties in nicely to a question that we've got there, asking if there's an option of doing research under a certain professor while studying. So I'm assuming that's the case. If they're in the list, then yeah. Perfect. We've got a lot of questions about job prospects. So you kind of touched on that when you were talking about the research project. What kind of jobs do graduates go on to do after graduation?
So there's a variety of options. A lot of our graduates go on to do PhDs or go on to be scientific lab technicians or scientific officers. We do have some that go into the NHS and work as biomedical scientists and clinical scientists. But we've got others that go into industry. We've even had a few that go into patent lawyer jobs within the field of science and scientific writing. And a couple of our old students have also went on to study medicine as well, because it's enlightened their interest in medicine. Laura, I feel I'm missing something.
No, I think you've touched on most of them there.
Perfect. That's quite a broad mix, isn't it? It's not just specific roles. That's really good. So yeah, we've been asked more about kind of the structure of the MSc. So semester 1 and semester 2, can you tell us more about like how long they last, when they typically sort of run from and to?
Yeah, I can take that one. So semester 1 starts typically mid-September. The exact date will vary slightly. Semester 1 will start mid-September, and that will run right up until the winter break, which is normally sort of just past the midpoint of December. You'll then have 3 weeks off over December and January. When you come back, semester 2 starts. So semester 2 starts early January. Semester 2 will run from January until mid-April, thereabouts, or early April. You'll then have 3 weeks off for the spring break. And then when you come back, you're into semester 3, which is what encompasses your sort of research project time. So all of your top courses fall in semester 1 and semester 2, and then your research projects into the summer semester.
Perfect. And a question we're always asked, and I know it's really difficult to answer, is kind of like a typical week. I know there's no such thing, but how often should an MSc student expect to be in class versus what they're expected to do out with of class?
So for the Cancer Research Precision Oncology programme, and this will be, I think, quite similar for digital cancer technologies, students are typically timetabled 3 days a week on campus. So we try to sort of condense the teaching into a certain number of days so that you're not just coming in for, an hour here and there. So you will typically be timetabled to come in for 3 days a week, and that might not be all day, it might be, you know, a morning or an afternoon. But roughly 3 days a week during the top courses. Now that's obviously subject to change, so there are going to be some weeks where you might have a slightly different timetable. It's not set in stone, and it's not you will only ever be in on these times on these days. But we typically try to timetable you in a similar fashion every week, and we try to kind of block your teaching sessions together so that you're not having to go back and forward too much.
Perfect. And I'm assuming timetables will all become clearer once a student's registered,
Absolutely.
their classes are updated. Yeah,
Yep.
perfect. And then someone's actually asked in the chat, and we've had that submitted beforehand, whereabouts are the classes held? Are they sort of main campus? Are they out with?
No, so our classes are up at the Garscube campus. So there's the main campus, which is in sort of the West End of Glasgow. We are slightly further west than the West End. So we are based up on the Garscube campus, which is a beautiful campus. This is up where it's where the School of Cancer Sciences is. It's where the CR UK Scotland Institute is based. It's also where the vet school is. So all of your top classes will be up there, with the exception of your lab week, which is on the main campus.
Perfect. That actually leads into another question we had. What sort of lab skills do the programmes provide, if they do?
Joanne, do you want to start on that one?
So both programs provide lab skills. So the Precision Oncology, the Cancer Research Precision Oncology, when had a week of core lab skills where they'll learn how to do things like Western blotting, PCR, Laura, yeah, and the digital cancer technologies. They've got several sessions where they learn lab skills, so that will be H&E and immunohistochemistry. But because of the computational pathology nature of that programme, there'll also be several dry lab sessions where they're actually sitting on the computers learning how to do digital pathology and computational pathology. And I think both courses involve dry lab bioinformatics classes. So yeah, there's a variety of wet lab skills and dry lab skills on both programs in the same courses.
Perfect. And then we've also been asked about exams and assessments. So how are they assessed? Is it a mix of different things or one big thing?
No, so it's a mix of various forms of assessments. We don't use any exams. So the programs are both entirely coursework assessed. So there will be associated pieces of coursework with each of the top courses. That might be one piece of work, it might be two, it might be three, depends entirely on the course and the size and length of the course. And those assessments will range from things like, excuse me, designing a cancer poster and presenting that poster. We have a clinical trial design proposal as one of the assessments. There is critically reviewing literature as one of the assessments. So there's really quite a good range of assessments, and we hope that what students find is that they get to utilise some of the same skills in some of the assessments, so they're constantly building on the skills as they go throughout the year.
Perfect. That'll be good news to some. No exams.
No exams.
And oh, that's covered it. I'm just checking. Our chat box has got quite busy. So someone's asked about class timings. We kind of covered that. That 3 days a week on campus. Lab skills, have covered that one. Exam period, none. Right, so there's quite a big question here, so bear with. So this is for cancer research and precision oncology. Someone's asked, their focus is in neuro-oncology research and development, ranging from diagnosis until comprehensive management. Is there any opportunity to explore that specific interest during the MSc?
So while Laura's coughing, we have several labs within the institute that focus on different brain cancers, glioblastoma examples. So we have Professor Anthony Chalmers and Dr. Joe Birch, who are experts in that field. Not only do they contribute to the taught aspect of the course, but they always offer research projects for students to become involved in. And they do a lot in terms of patient-based research and also patient organoids and mouse models. So they cover all ranges of different brain cancer oncology.
That's what I was going to say.
Took the words out of your mouth. Another question that's came through is any tips for international students starting at the university within the School of Cancer Sciences, the weather? I'd say pack layers and prepare for 4 seasons in the one day. But in terms of their academic tips, any advice?
So what we aim to do is, because international students, it can be a bit of a culture shock. We have a almost buddy system through our tutorial sessions, where you will be placed within a small tutorial group, and within that group you'll be introduced to a PhD student, a postdoc, and an academic, who you hopefully will build up a relationship. And the reason we have these different types of people that you'll be paired with is because some questions you'll feel much more at ease chatting to a PhD student who's of similar age to you, but other times it might be more appropriate to ask a question of an academic. And we hope that these tutorial groups not only support you in your academic endeavours, but also can help you settle into Glasgow lifestyle and teach you about the social aspects as well. Anything to add to that, Laura?
No.
Perfect. One of the links I've actually popped into the chat is for the UniBuddy. So that's current students at the university. That's a really good way of connecting with people that are here just now and asking their advice, and they're always more than willing to share that. And one thing that I've heard just from doing these different academics and speaking with students is a year goes very quickly. So really just throw yourself in because it does go really fast. Let's see what else we've got.
We've got a large international student body within Glasgow, so there's lots of different social groups that people can join as well.
Yeah, it always amazes me how many different, really niche groups there are. Let me see what we've got. Got quite a bit. So we've got a lot about placements, but we kind of covered that off with the research project, how the skills develop there. Jobs, we've covered that. Yeah, I think a lot of these questions have kind of been covered. It's maybe people have joined a bit later, so hopefully you'll be able to go back and get those on the recording.
I've noticed someone's asking about the difference between the MSc top courses and the MRes. So it's really the MSc top courses. You've got 2 semesters of teaching to adequately equip you in the underlying knowledge that you need to perform your 14-week research project, where the MRes is more a year-long research project where you'll only have intermittent, very small level of teaching contribution.
Perfect, good spot. I think that's covered most of the questions that we've got there. Yeah, a couple about PhDs, but that is a bit separate, and there's a whole host of information. Like I said, that upcoming postgraduate event, that will also touch upon postgraduate research. So any of those questions you could get covered off there.
But there will be a lot of opportunities to apply for PhD programs, and these cover both funded opportunities and self-funded, but yeah, as Naomi says, you'll find more about that in another session.
Perfect. Well, that is actually bringing us just to nearly 10 o'clock. So I think that's quite a nice place to kind of wrap up, unless there's anything that you think we've not covered that we should mention before we... No. Good. Perfect. I think we've done really well cramming loads of information in there, so well done. If you do have any questions that you don't feel have been covered, or there's anything that sparked another question, you can contact the administrators for the programme. So you can find those email addresses on the web pages for the programmes, and the administration teams are brilliant, so they'll get back to you to do their best to help you. But yeah, like I said, that upcoming online postgraduate session will be a really good resource for anything out with the programme. Yeah, so we'll send the recording to you in the next few days, and hopefully we'll see you all in September.
Yeah,
So
we look
see you later.
forward to welcoming you all to Glasgow. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.